A safety device that's supposed to reduce injury during a crash is doing the exact opposite. I'll tell you what it is. We're about 24 hours away from the Mendacious event in Callaway. Those who work here at the Franklin County YMCA says it's all about staying active, and this is as close to sitting still as these kids are going to get. If you thought Monopoly was a game of Risk, I'll tell you about a game teenagers are playing that involves these tokens with a little bit of fire. It happens so quickly. You get into a car accident, your airbags deploy, but what you don't want to happen is metal pieces flying into your face. Right, you know what, guys, I've had to roll up my sleeves since I've been out here, and you definitely want to take precautions, especially if you know that you're going to be out in the heat for long periods of time. And guess what? Water, well, that's key. You know, Gene, if these walls could talk, the stories that they would tell as this old bottling facility is transforming into a restaurant. Some teenagers and adults are putting rubbing alcohol, flammable liquids like rubbing alcohol and fingernail polish remover on their bodies. Some are able to put out the flames before it's too late there, and well, some are not so lucky. Kids from Sontag and Rocky Mount Elementary Schools are getting free breakfast and lunch. I'll tell you how.
Children being left in hot cars and dying. WDBJ7's Frankie Jupiter talked with an expert who wants to remind you never leave a child in the car, period. He is live tonight in Roanoke.
That's absolutely right. You know, I've been sitting in the back of this SUV for about 15 minutes, and I'm just dripping in sweat right now. And this here is an infrared thermometer, and basically this lets us know how hot it is in the car, 103.5, 104. And I'm going to step out here, guys, because it's really hot in here. But that's the problem. Babies all over the country are being left in the back seat of hot cars. Summertime heat is no joking matter when someone is inside of a hot car. Just last week, there were reports from Florida, Michigan, and Connecticut of heat-related deaths and illnesses.
We just want to remind folks to never, ever leave their children in the car, not even for a minute. That's our motto, not even for a minute.
Tiffany Bradbury with Roanoke Fire EMS says not under any circumstance should you leave children in the car.
I know it's hard. I have 3 kids, and it would be so much easier sometimes to run into the store and grab a soda without them, but it's not best practice.
It only takes minutes in the heat of the day for a vehicle to reach 125 degrees, according to Bradbury. It's precious minutes that can be the difference between life and death. Babies can't compensate for the heat as well as adults.
Well, I want parents to know that, never say never. You never want to say that. I hear that all the time. How could you possibly forget your child? How many of us have been driving and our schedule changes and we forget our turn?
As the summer months continue to grow hotter, you might want to take a second look in the back seat. And one of the ways that you can remember that the kid is in the back seat is taking a stuffed animal like this, taking it out of the car seat, placing the child in the car seat here, get into the car, and put it into the passenger side. So that way when you turn the car off, you're getting ready to get out, you see this and remember that the little one is in the back seat. We're live in Roanoke. Frankie Jupiter, WDBJ7. Many would agree that no one should be left without some remembrance at their grave. And now the hope is to recognize a little boy gone too soon. Sunday morning, January 18th, life for the Harris and Poindexter families changed forever. A fire ripped through their home, destroying everything, including the most precious possession of all, a 3-year-old little boy.
When I think about him, I remember seeing him in that window. And I never forget that. Trying to get out, banging on the window, asking for help, scared, crying.
3-year-old Keontae Harris, better known as Mookie to family and friends, waited. But the fire was too intense at the front door, and family members couldn't go back in. Keontae's mom says most memories from that day seem like a big blur.
I remember my house being on fire. I remember I was looking everywhere and I couldn't find my son nowhere.
Kiana Poindexter says it was hard to see through the smoke. Keontae was later found inside.
Every day of the week, I think about him.
She's not the only one thinking about him. Family friends do the same. But it wasn't until recently family friend Elena Carroll and her 14-year-old son Victor Thomason went to visit the toddler's grave. But there was one problem. They couldn't find it.
We didn't see anything. It was like nothing there. So then we went to the main office. They gave us a map.
The map showed where the little boy was laid to rest. Among the granite monuments, the Virgin Mary and the angels. This angel rests alone. No stone markers, no headstone, no indication of existence at all. Victor wants that to change. He knew the little boy when he was 3.
He's a good boy, and my first friend, my best friend, and will always be my friend.
Since the visit to the grave, this mom and son put a paper picture on a flag to show that someone is here. They've held fundraisers to try to come up with the money to get Keontae a headstone. They still don't have enough.
If he had a headstone, that would really help, and people will know who he is. And they were like, oh, that's the boy that never had a headstone. Now he has one. Now he's at rest. It's like now he's at peace.
At peace, knowing he's remembered after all of this time. Now, the young man, Victor, who you saw in the story, is hoping that enough money is raised to get Keontae a headstone by his birthday. That's right. People in the Muslim community that I spoke to say they receive these pamphlets all the time in the mail, but the ones that they've received recently aren't the gospel truth. Hussein Al-Shablawi says these little pamphlets are distributed like clockwork every Sunday. Oftentimes he reads them and says they have inspirational messages. But this message, titled Unforgiven, he says, is untrue.
It basically indicates that people are violent, the religion itself is violent, and the facts in here is not true.
Al-Shablawi says the pamphlets distributed by the Bible Baptist Church in Garden City are an attack on the Muslim community. Turn to the first page, and it shows what appears to be an African-American man serving time in prison, where he later becomes a Muslim, forced to do so by threatening men.
It shows him trying to kill his mother, saying, if you want my grandma, I'll kill you where you stand, Allahu Akbar.
According to the pamphlet story outline, the man who went to jail, whose name is Lamont, wants to hit his grandmother for her Christian beliefs because he's now Muslim. Al-Shablawi says this paints Muslims as violent people, and he doesn't want this distributed near his nieces and nephews' school.
What if their kids get a hand of this and be like, oh, well, all the Muslims are going to hell, then go look at my nieces and nephews and be like, y'all going to hell with your prophet.
We reached out to the Bible Baptist Church. Pastor Brown told me he didn't want to go on camera, but says the church doesn't create the pamphlets, they just distribute them.
Read it before you hand it out. Read it. Even though you don't write it, you still hand it out.
Pastor Brown says he's received messages from Al-Shablawi about his concerns and would like to meet with him in regards to the literature. Now, if you want to see the full pamphlets, log on to our website at WDBJ7.com. We're live in Roanoke. Frankie Jupiter, WDBJ7. Some teenagers and adults are putting rubbing alcohol, flammable liquids like rubbing alcohol and fingernail polish remover on their bodies. Some are able to put out the flames before it's too late there, and well, some are not so lucky.
Oh my gosh, that sounds painful and idiotic.
It's so stupid. I don't know why people do it.
These people are watching this compilation of the latest viral social media game. It's called the Fire Challenge.
I think I could find better things to do as a kid than light myself on fire. That just seems like something only an idiot would do.
This just looks like no fun and all danger.
Participants pour a flammable liquid such as fingernail polish remover or rubbing alcohol on their body. Then they literally set themselves on fire. It's a challenge that sent teens to the hospital with severe burns.
I guess everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame, or as I would call it, their 15 minutes of shame.
Roanoke Fire Chief David Hoback says this isn't a smart way to get your claim to fame.
Absolutely not. Anytime you introduce flame to a body, it's going to create some problems for you. Not only will you burn your skin, burn your clothes, but you will inhale it.
This could cause respiratory burns, which can not only be life-threatening, but long-term disabling. Typically, these daredevils make sure they are close to some type of water source.
You may be able to put it out easily, but not before it does damage. You know, you may get panicked and not be able to put it out. And, you know, why would you do that to yourself?
Now, I spoke with some hospital officials today. They say they haven't seen any cases like this in our area, and the fire department wants it to stay that way. We're live in Roanoke. Frankie Jupiter, WDBJ 7.